Jumbo, Jumbo,
Jumbo.
you are listening to Black Power Media Reloaded, and the program that you're listening to now and watching is Operation Power, a voice for Black radical politics and revolutionary change. My name is Inez Barron, and I am your co host, along with my husband, Charles Barron, the bold, the outspoken, the indomitable, the one and only, the unbought and the unbossed.
Charles Barron. And I humbly sit next to this beautiful African queen,
Thank you.
brilliant mind, and my wife of 43 years. Hey, y'all, I made it to 43. 42, I was, we fighting. I was beating her up. She hit me back. No, we don't even fight. But I was so glad to make it to 43, and I'm working on 44 years of marriage. I'm a happily married Black man.
Likewise, back to me as well. We're so glad that you're here with us, Operation Power. And we believe that in all of the gatherings that we have, in all of the meetings that we have, we need to give honor and homage to our ancestors. We know we did not get where we are simply by our hard work and efforts and sacrifices, but there are countless ancestors, many whose names we don't even know, who made their sacrifices and pass the torch to us. So we do like to take a moment and honor them. And we have a video that we play talking about the libation offering to our ancestors.
For African people, nothing important happens without a libation. And so for this very important presentation, we begin by the pouring of libation. We pour libation first to our first ancestor, to that hidden one who, though hidden, manifests in all things as all things, that God goddess idea in the universe by any and all names. To our first ancestor, we pour libation, Ashe. We pour libation too to our ancestors because they were the first people on this planet, mothers and fathers of all mankind, flashpoint of the human family. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to our ancestors because they were the ones who first gave birth to the idea of civilization, knew we would need a form of governance, and they nurtured that idea along the Nile until it reached its zenith in Kemet. There they built these gigantic monuments as evidence of that great civilization, and they carved instructions on the walls of temples and tombs for us, so we would never forget. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to our ancestors because over time they put together all the tenets of civilization and they took those ideas and left the continent. They were the people of the first Exodus. They left Africa and went all over the world and peopled the world. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. We pour libation too to our ancestors because they did not sit on their laurels. They continued to improve, continued to evolve, and at each point of evolution, they again would leave the continent and settle and resettle the planet. They met themselves coming and going. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to those ancestors because over time, they found themselves the object of a forced exodus when they were kidnapped, shackled, cargoed, shipped out of Africa and enslaved in diasporas around the world. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to the ancestors left at home, the very young, the aged, the infirm, left to reinvent themselves, depleted of us, human resources. But they were enjoined by us in the diasporas, both objects of a global myopia that ruptured the soul of a people as it ravaged a continent. To those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to those ancestors because over time they began to remember who and what they were. Because no matter where they had been dropped off, they still retained bits and pieces of who and what they were. They retained that African core that described them. They began to remember bits and pieces of a song. They began to remember lines from a rhythm. They began to remember dances that they did in ancient times. They began to remember those ancient drum beats that they now beat out on bare skin. And so to those ancestors, we pour libation, Ashe. Pour libation too to them because they then began to teach each other. They began to resurrect and reconstruct that history and that culture. They became the new Africans wherever they were. They became the new teachers, preachers, archaeologists, the new singers, dancers, the new drummers, the new Jaliyah. They reconstructed that history and our culture and became new Africans everywhere. So to those ancestors we pour libation. Ashe. Pour libation to those ancestors because they are the ones who pass that information on to us. And so we pour libation to those of you who will watch this presentation. Those of you who are the recipients of that pieced together history, of that reconstructed culture. To you, we pour libation. Ashe. Pour libation to our children and those yet to be born. For they are the ones that you must teach. And you can only teach if you know the history. So to you who are learning the history and are passing on that history, and to our children who are learning that history and will pass that history on to all eternity, but they will call your name in all eternity. To our children we pour libation. Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Yes, important that we recognize and honor our ancestors for the courage that they've demonstrated and the ability to bring us to this point. Once again, you're listening to Operation Power, a voice for Black radical politics and revolutionary change. And we're a part of Operation Power, which is a grassroots organization in the East New York section of Brooklyn. And they know much of the background and the grit of much of the work that we've been able to accomplish during our time in political office, in the elected office of New York City and Assembly and New York City Council and the New York State Assembly. Much of what we've done has been because of Operation Power, common people here in our community sacrificing doing the work. So we do just have a brief video that we want to share, which tells you who and what Operation Power is about. Just a little synopsis so that you can get a fuller understanding.
Operation Power stands for people organizing and working for empowerment and respect.
Operation Power is a grassroots social justice organization founded by local community stakeholders, which includes activists, organizers, and leaders who understand that the system as it is currently structured is destroying us and our communities.
The system, the capitalist system, one that promotes human greed over human need, one that promotes profit over people, needs to be dismantled. These local community organizers recognize capitalism needs to be destroyed and replaced with socialism.
Operation Power was founded in 1997 with the understanding that uprooting capitalism needs to begin locally. Operation Power understood that our communities are the perfect vehicle to dismantle this parasitic capitalist system brick by brick, and the economic, political, and cultural institutions and other systems in place in our local community infrastructure. Whether it's the local school board, community board, city council, state assembly, all represents mechanisms to control the destiny of our people.
In 1997, Operation Power launched the campaign Charles Barron for City Council that would lead to over 20 years of radical changes in the East New York community. These changes included over 20,000 units of housing affordable to our community, three $88 million schools, over $110 million secured and allocated for community parks, millions secured for library upgrades, and another $42 million for the construction of a new library.
Cultural programs such as the Juneteenth celebration, Kwanzaa programs, and reinterment of Sankofa Park, securing thousands of jobs for local residents.
We've secured political seats that include city council seat, state assembly seat, state committee person, male and female district leader, chair of the local community board members, campaigning and getting a judge from the community elected. county committee seats, block association presidents, tenant presidents, and much more.
And all this was done while being Black radicals. We are Black radicals, which means getting to the root causes of the problems challenging our community. We need to get to the root and not lose ourselves battling the symptoms of this vicious capitalist system, because we know revolution is the solution.
Operation Power believes in Black power for Black people. Black power is still needed and still relevant. Operation Power believes that Black radicalism is the only position we can afford to take, getting to the root of our problem for revolutionary change. Operation Power believes in community control for Black people as the only way to get to self-determination and liberation.
Operation Power believes that we need to move to a more socialist system, a communal system that doesn't suffocate but liberates. With these beliefs, we take collective action for our self-determination and liberation by being a part of Operation Power.
Self-determination. With all of that, we're talking self-determination.
Thank you. You may have noticed that there were some books that were highlighted in that video, and we want to call your attention to a few of those books. The first one we want to call out is written by none other than Charles Barron, and it is called Speaking Truth to Power. And it is a compilation of 70, 80 articles that have been written over a period of time on various topics, and it's available online from Barnes & Noble.
And you can show that book, Tech.
Jules, baby.
If your money finish, she ask me, brother. Bring all your friends, I got you, my love. Forget him, I got in some pavio. Dancey, 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 yo. Dancey, 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 yo. Brother, enjoy. Take your time, my love. Jolly o'clock, bring some wine, no they waste my time. I need your love, any kind, whether Ghana or Nigeria. We no get worry, I need she share, oh yeah, kaje gbadun. All night long, I'm a
Side of the indigenous people. So our program today is two parts: honoring and remembering Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, also known as H. Rap Brown, Imam, minister, yes, and remembering the genocide of the indigenous people. And we're going to start with the genocide of the indigenous people.
Well, once again, I know a lot of people use this time and call it Thanksgiving. We call it misgivings, because what happened to the indigenous people in this country is a crime against humanity. And although you use this time to say, I'm not dealing with that, I'm just trying to be thankful for my family, I don't want to interfere with your family gathering and your thankfulness. But just think, if there was a particular day, and there are days where we had massacres and we had genocide of African people, we wouldn't want people to be walking around here celebrating that, no matter what the situation is. So we wanted to say, as you go ahead about your celebration, at least acknowledge what happened to the indigenous people. Remember, they tried to say that Adam Smith was the father of capitalism, like some economic genius who wrote this book called Wealth of a Nation. And it was his ingeniousness that brought in the capitalist system. Lie. Doesn't take a genius to steal somebody's land, put them on reservations, then steal African people, force them to work the land, and you reap all the profits from it. We go from plantation slavery to penitentiary slavery. The prison industrial complex in the 21st century doesn't take a lot of genius, but it takes some serious evilness, some serious cruelty, some serious savagery to do what they did to the indigenous people, to African people, to people all over the world, everywhere the European man went, whether it was in Asia or South America or the Caribbean, or even in Europe, what they did to themselves. It was with oppression. So we wanted to take our time to acknowledge, to remember, as we speak, there are indigenous people on, they call them Indian reservations, we call them concentration camps, committing suicide, a lot of alcoholism and drug addiction because of the oppression. And there are some who speak out for it. Leonard Peltier is one of those persons. He was with AIM and had challenges, and he too was in prison for 47 years for being charged with murdering people they knew he didn't murder. And I'm not going to get into all the particulars of the case, but spent over 46 years, 47 years in prison. And then Biden, on his last day, decides to commute his sentence, didn't liberate him, commute his sentence and say you can be under house arrest for the rest of your life. And so they let him out in January of this year on that. But there were some people and some family members, I think there was a grandson, cousin, or someone who came forward and read a statement from him. And we want you to hear that statement because it speaks to the plight of the indigenous people here in America.
Hello and greetings to my sisters and brothers on the day of mourning. I can happily say, because of your hard work and support over the years, that I'm now sitting in my own personal home, pretty nice little home that was bought for me by Indian people, not tribes. And it's completely furnished. I got a lot of gifts from Native people to hang on the walls, and some of my paintings, of course. I'm comfortable compared to the cell I was in for the 49 years, 0.2 months. And I'm happy to hear that you're still exposing Thanksgiving. It was probably one of the biggest false propaganda information that the American people and American government has ever distributed among people around the world. They claim it's a day of Thanksgiving and how great of a friend they were to Native people and celebrated with them turkey and other foods. When if you look deeply into the real actual history, they massacred a number of people on the day of mourning, and I know that's why you have created the day of mourning. And I'm happy that you're still continuing to do it, and to expose it and have a memorial on it. I hope next year, after I get off of these harsh restrictions, that I can travel around a little bit to the various different Native nations to tell you personally, thank you. Thank you very much, and I love you for everything and the years you put behind trying to win my freedom. If I will be there next year. I promise you. I will show up somehow, even if I have to hitchhike, which I don't think I will, but I will be there and celebrate with you, or mourn with you, is what I should really say. Maybe speak to you directly and tell you again, thank you for helping give my life back so I can spend the rest of my life at my home here and with my people, all of my people, so that I can have a decent ending to my life. It would be a wonderful gift. Of course, this is a wonderful gift, but that would even be more. And I'm hoping that we can make it happen. I've been exonerated numerous times over the years. The government saying there's no evidence against me. Made up false evidence and everything. I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about. If not, please educate your young so that you know why so many people stood behind me. And let's try to stop this from happening. For years, they tried to hide what they did to us and keep it from the public from learning about it. We wanted to learn. Our word was we wanted to expose them so they wouldn't be able to do it again. Well, they're doing it again. Look what they're doing in Palestine. Look what they're doing in Ukraine. Look, now they're trying to Iran. They're killing thousands and thousands of babies and young children and destroying homes. And this is the same thing they did to us. This is why we got a day of mourning. And so we got the fight to expose these atrocities is not over. It's not over for us, or it's not over for the rest of the world, because once they get done with Iran and Palestine and Ukraine, they're going to move to another area. They're going to try to destroy another world, take over another world, because they want to be the Aarons of the world. They want to be the super race. They want to control the whole world. And we can't let them do that. We won't let them do that. And so I hope I can be there with you next year. I hope it happens. Can make it happen. So we're not giving up, and the fight's not over. And this just says it's not over for us, all of us. So thank you. Thank you very much again. And please forgive me for not being able to be there with you. It really, from my heart, it hurts. But it's not my doing. So, Doksha. And in the spirit of Crazy Horse, Leonard Peltier.
Woo! Wow. I have to say this. Kalonji Changa is the technical person. And he said, my apologies. I switched at the... You couldn't have made a better switch, my brother. You just made our day, made our program. Wow. The piece we were going to do was from last year. Somebody was reading. I don't even have to read the statement now. Isn't it incredible how his spirit is still there after all of that? Wow, he still has 47. That fighting spirit. What, 47 years? 47. What? Incredible. And look at him talking about Palestine, talking about other oppressed people. Wow. Man, you made the program. You made the program, my brother. So we don't even have to do all that other stuff. 49 years. Thank you. 49 years. So we salute you. We salute you, Leonard Peltier. 49 years and still a fighting spirit. And I do want to say this as before we go to Jamil Al-Amin, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, is that the indigenous people and African people, we had a unity ever since we came to this country in 1526 at the Petey River in South Carolina, when 120 Africans were brought from the island of Hispaniola, which is now Haiti and Dominican Republic. They came and they had the first colony in 1526, not 16. What is that, 1619? No, it was 1526. The Spaniards had the first colony, and the indigenous people hooked up with the African peoples and whipped them, beat them, until had they go crawling back to Hispaniola, and half of them died on the journey back. And then the Seminoles in Florida hooked up with the Africans and fought. And there were African people here along, years before Columbus. Columbus didn't discover anything other than that he was lost, didn't know where he was going. That's why everywhere he went, he called them Indians, because he was setting sail to India, to everything. Taino Indians, the Arawak Indians, the Carib Indians, the Indians, these are indigenous people. So it is was a great surprise, and it really put the real spirit into this program. And we love it because we're not personalities, podcast personalities. We're podcast revolutionaries. So we like to bring that message. And now we want to segue to the one and only Imam Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin.
Yeah, and just to talk about that, we have a lot of work to do as we talk about revolutionary change. People are still celebrating Columbus Day and still celebrating those holidays that are in fact based on lies and theft and murder. And we've got to get the word out. We've got to tell the truth. We can go to those original sources. We can go to Columbus's diaries and read what it was that he did and how they subjugated the people and killed the people. So we've got a revolutionary fight to make sure that the truth be told. And we know also the Trail of Tears and all that was done to the indigenous people. So we're inspired to hear Leonard Peltier tell the story and to be as positive as he is and encourage us to move on.
And he looked good.
Yes, he
looked
did.
good.
Yes.
He looked good. A beautiful shot. Boy, this has been something. If you see us really move, because we are, it was really something special to have that happen. Go ahead, Anna.
Well, second part of our program is honoring and remembering Imam Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, the great work that he did. Born in 1943 in Louisiana and was known as H. Rap Brown because he knew how to use the words of the community, of the street. He knew how to rap. And people were always attracted to him, even as a young child, from a youngster. He was working in the civil rights movement. He was an activist. He was a freedom fighter. And he joined SNCC, I believe it was 1963, moved on and became the chairperson of SNCC, and also became, with the Black Panther Party, the Minister of Justice. So he was devoted to doing the work, getting the word out, organizing, and he was fiery. He spoke his mind, and he was fiery. And he had gone to Cambridge, Maryland, and delivered a speech there using his rhetoric and his tone and the way he speaks. And he left, and he was, in fact, charged with his lecture causing a riot, inciting a riot. Now, remember, this is the era of COINTELPRO. This is the era of targeting and getting those Black leaders infiltrating the organizations, disrupting them, creating lies, and looking to, in fact, erase them, annihilate them under any kind of charges. We remember what they did with our sister Assata Shakur, how they had her charged with robbery and bank robberies and all of that. And none of those cases stuck, but they kept targeting her. Also, this is a case of what we see with Al-Amin, him being targeted. So they charged him with inciting a riot. He went underground. He did some work before he went underground. He even went to Columbia University because they were under a whole era of disenfranchising, disinterring the people, moving the people out so that they could expand the university. He went to Columbia University and he organized with the persons who were there fighting against Columbia University. And then he did eventually go underground. However, he was charged and he did spend time in Attica. He spent 5 years, I believe, and it was during that time that he launched his faith. He became very involved. He became a Muslim. He changed his name. And when he came out in 2000, he went to Atlanta, Georgia. He was in Atlanta. He established a grocery store, a health food store, and a mosque. He became a faith leader, and he had many youth programs. He was encouraging our youth. He was working with our youth to tell them, listen, come away from the violence, come from the drugs, and do positive things. He was still targeted. He was still targeted, and the agents, the police officers, the criminal justice system, the officers, so to speak, as they call themselves, said that they had an encounter with someone in a car and that they were going to try to subdue this person, and there was an exchange of gunfire. They say they shot the person and he was wounded, but he escaped. They captured Al-Amin and said that he was the person that they had encountered. He didn't fit the description. He had no wounds. He had no injury. The trial was trumped up, so many charges. There was information that was withheld and is only now just being discovered. But they kept him incarcerated. They kept him interred. He developed serious medical conditions, did not get the attention that he needed in a timely fashion, in an adequate fashion. And we did lose him recently, last week. And we just wanted to make sure that we remember him.
That's right.
We tell his story. We
That's
support his family as they continue the battle to get justice for him, even though he's no longer with us, to get the truth out, to get that story told, to be able, our people to know who he was and the great work that he did. And we do have some video that we want to share with you.
So we also want to reiterate what you said. The guy they were looking for was 5'7" with gray eyes, and Jamil, your mom was 6'5" with brown eyes. This was kangaroo court, trumped up charges. But we're going to show some video and then talk in between each video.
H. Rap Brown, who says the only thing the white man respects is the gun, speaks out on violence in American life.
I say violence is necessary. Violence is a part of America's culture. It is as American as cherry pie. American taught the black people to be violent. People recognize, and the poor people recognize first, what it takes to get the man off your back, what it takes to get freedom in America. America used violence to secure her freedom, and they used us every time in a war to participate in violence to ensure her freedom. Individuals do not create rebellions, conditions do. Until they begin to address themselves to those conditions, rebellions will continue and they will escalate. We learned well from America. Violence is a part of American culture, and black folks are a part of America. So therefore, if we accept any of your culture at this point, it will be your violent nature. Each time a black church is bombed or burnt, that is violence in our streets. Each time a black body is found in the swamps of Mississippi and Alabama, that is violence in our land. Each time black right workers cannot be protected by the government, that is anarchy. Each time a police officer shoots and kills a black teenager, that is urban crime. You see, we recognize America for what it is, the Fourth Reich. And we tell America to be on notice, because if you are gonna play Nazis, black folks ain't gonna play Jews. Yeah, man. At this point, I want to address myself to the so-called Negro leaders who find it their will and their right to condone the sending of federal troops rather than federal aid to the impoverished and war-stricken people of rebellions. We say to these leaders, there is something morally wrong with your analysis of America's political situation. How can you tell black people to be nonviolently and at the same time condone the sending of white killers into the black communities? It's something wrong. The question has been raised about why black men fight and have fought for this country. It is the black man's implacable will to be free that makes him fight for this country. And it is that same will that will make him fight this country. The word Negro is a word coined for black people to lose their identity. They were given the term Negro, which means nothing, has no significance as far as black people are concerned. Negro is not a race. Black constitutes a race. Negro does not constitute a race. Black people have to begin to identify with the word black and with other black people, not Negroes. You don't decide what I am. You see, animals and slaves are named after and by their masters. Men name themselves.
Baby, all right. Yeah. Hey.
Powerful. You know, that is so applicable. That is so applicable today with Trump bringing in the troops.
Mm-hmm.
Trump brings in the troops. Some troopers died. Trump put them in the line of fire. You bring them in the troops, and at the same time, this is what Rap Brown was talking about. You don't address violence with more violence, because that's what troops and police. You cannot solve our situation in our neighborhoods with police containment or National Guard containment. He can bring in 1,000 more troops. There'll be more violence because people are going to do desperate things when they know that their lives are on the line. So we appreciate the Imam in his time. Look what he said. It is so applicable today from our identity, for dealing with the fact that poverty is violent. This is why Malcolm X said when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, he said, America, the same thing that H. Rap Brown said, America is about violence. And the chickens came home to roost. He was simply saying, if you practice violence and you preach violence and you tolerate violence of others, it's going to come back home to you. And that's what Rap Brown was saying, Malcolm X was saying, and that's what we're saying today. The killings that occur, it's going to come right back to you if you continue to perpetuate and allow violence. There's nothing more violent than poverty. There's nothing more violent than having a nation that has a $7.2 trillion national budget, and yet some of the worst poverty, 30 and 40% poverty in Black and brown communities across this country. Indigenous people are on concentration camps, and this is their land. They're deporting people that they stole the land from. You are the immigrants. You came from Europe. The people you're deporting originated here. These are the contradictions that H. Rap Brown, Imam Abdullah Al-Amin raised, and this is what we're still raising. This is why we got to keep his spirit alive. We got to keep his lessons alive. We got to keep his word alive, and we got to act, not just talk. We used to call some people who did a lot of theorizing, and we used to call them armchair revolutionaries. Get off the armchair. Got to get out there and act. Let's listen to some more of Imam.
Oh, sorry.
Move back! You get to them if you move back. Move back. Bring them forward. Bring them forward if you get back. Hold it. Quiet. They're not going to speak till you all move back. Now, everyone step back. They're going to come forward on the steps.
Okay. There are several things that we want to point out. Come in closer. There's several things that we want to point out. We're preparing in Harlem to come and deal with Columbia University. One, here's a statement. Here's a statement that was released by the students on the inside. I'll read the statement. The black students of Columbia University, joined by a few members of the black community, have been in Hamilton Hall for 56 hours, more than that now. We're here to protest the racist policies of this university. Columbia has consistently refused to alter these policies when the community has used normal means of protest. So we escalate in the war. We are therefore using this dramatic means of protest to highlight the following 4 demands. We might increase the list. 1, the stopping of the construction of the gym. And I still maintain the position that if you build it up, people in Harlem should blow it up. Number 2, dropping of the charges against all persons involved in demonstrations against the gym. Number 3, breaking of all faculty and administrative ties with IDA. Number 4, general amnesty for all the students involved. When the university has stopped construction of the gym and granted an amnesty, we will consider the questions of negotiation with the university. We are prepared to remain here indefinitely until these conditions are met. We have established a cafeteria with adequate stores for all contingencies. A physician is in charge of our infirmary. Morale is high. Our sanitation teams are maintaining the excellent condition of the building. We don't destroy property. Black Columbia University students are in complete control of all occurrences within Hamilton Hall. And you don't believe it, let some honky cops try to go in there. We would like to take note of the positive efforts of the ad hoc faculty committee. Now the brothers in here maintain that they will stay here until the university is willing to talk on their terms. And we are going in the community of Harlem and bolster support down there. So we're going to let Columbia know that if they don't want to deal with the brothers in here, they're going to deal with the brothers on the street. Another thing is all you people who didn't get a chance to go to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, we might let y'all have early vacations. All you students. Brother Carmichael.
You my leader, you speak for me. Let's go.
What do you mean when you say that the people of Harlem are preparing to come up here and help the students?
Would you all move back? Everyone, back, please, sisters.
You know, I find that to be very interesting because Columbia University was a target of our demonstrations around the question of genocide in Palestine.
Right.
And even before the genocide in Palestine, we wanted Columbia University to divest from their portfolio investments in South Africa. We were on that same divest, correct. We were on that same lawn, took it over, and now when the Palestinian question came up and Columbia University was on the wrong side again, it was a black mayor, cop, Mayor Cop Eric Adams in New York, who brought in the cops to take out the students from Columbia University, Hamilton Hall, and some other places for peacefully protesting. They got roughed up at the orders of a black cop mayor, Eric Adams. Glad he's gone. Glad he's gone and out of the way. But you see the consistency of our struggle. Mae Jackson, who we wanted to get on this program, she had other things to do. I think she's going to be doing some programs this evening, was with H. Rap Brown in Harlem. And they worked together in Harlem. And you saw there, what I liked about this clip also, Stokely Carmichael was probably more popular and known and had charisma and all of that. He said, my chairman spoke. And he checked his ego at the door and let the chairman of SNCC, Rap Brown, do the talking. So I thought those were good lessons for us to learn. But you see how clear he was, Inez?
Right. And it's interesting that we again get a model of understanding that our struggle is diverse. It's not limited. It's not just something that's in a pocketed area. It's across the nation. It's across the continent. It's across the waters and moving on. When we're fighting against the oppressor who has come in and taken our land and then begins to even take more. So for them to construct that gymnasium, they displaced people. So we're talking about gentrification. We're talking about a land grab. Columbia University is one of the most richest landowners in terms of what's held in New York City.
That's right.
And they continue to do that. And we continue to fight. We continue to fight. We don't ever stop. We don't ever give in. But we see that that struggle is diverse. It's not in one area. And we've got to lend our support to those areas that we know there's an issue that has to be confronted.
And you know what's interesting? Inez and I sat in the city council. We voted against projects that came through the city council for Columbia's expansion in Harlem.
That's right.
Because that expansion led to gentrification. It just goes to show you why we push so hard in this electoral arena to get Black radicals, revolutionaries, to set up an independent structure like we did, Operation Power, and get control of these local seats, particularly in the city council. We say Operation Power because city council has the power to determine what's going to be built on city-owned land and even some privately owned land. And we have that power. So it was important for us to get in that seat. And we voted against NYU. They were doing the same thing to expand. You got to watch these colleges and universities. And they invest in Israel. They invest in South Africa. So these are the issues of our time that the Honorable Imam Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, Rap Brown, was right on. So we want to now play another clip when he speaks more from an imam's position. We want to remind you folks to share this episode and subscribe to this channel. You know, you got to subscribe to Black Power Media, Reloaded. Share this episode. Whoever's listening to this, watching and viewing this, share it. You see the information from Leonard Peltier. That was priceless, precious. And Rap Brown's information was awesome. And then the work that we're doing in New York is incredible. How we were able to beat the machine and deliver after we beat the machine and stayed Black, radical, and revolutionary. Let's hear some more from the Imam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. All praise is due to Allah who has created man and has not left him, but indeed has given him guidance as to that which is liked by the Creator. And he has commanded upon man struggle with consciousness and awareness in his behalf. It is with this in mind that we see that the trust that has been given to man is always dispatched, for again the Creator has commissioned. He has commissioned the soldier to fight, to jihad, the teacher to teach, the organizer to organize. And for the Muslim, he has commanded that we invite, that we give an invitation. And the invitation again is based and centered around that you invite people to the consciousness and awareness that struggle is an ongoing process. For Allah has said in the Quran, He has created man to toil and struggle. The word that is used in the Quran for struggle is kabad, which gives a general sense of struggle, meaning that everything and everyone who comes into this life engages in struggle to survive. The baby, when he is born, he transforms from breathing a liquid into breathing a gas. It is said that when the egg is fertilized, there's a competition between the sperm for fertilization of the egg. And this is implanted upon the individual himself, so he knows the nature of struggle. But then Allah in the Quran commands a higher level of struggle, for He says into jihad, fi sabilillah, to struggle with an awareness and a consciousness. And so it is that kind of struggle that distinguishes the people, those people whose commitment allows them to honor the trust, to become conscious and aware, and to struggle in a manner in which they first deal with themselves, and then that which emanates from dealing with yourself begins to involve the environment. That is the social context of struggle. And it is a struggle that is the higher form of struggle. So there is a sense of commitment that we make as individuals, and we ask the Creator with consciousness to guide our heart and to guide our tongue. We seek refuge in Him from misleading and from being misled, from betraying and being betrayed into ignorance by others. And on the basis of this commitment, we are able to distinguish those people who have made similar kinds of commitments. For indeed, in struggle and war, there is a kind of camaraderie that is forged in war, in the heat of war. So therefore, the communications are shortened between those people who struggle on that level. I don't need to come and tell you a whole lot about Kwame. It is evident, for Allah has allowed him to struggle in a manner that is clear to the people. Blessed are those who struggle. Oppression is worse than the grave. He said it is better to live and fight for a noble cause than to live and die a slave. And again, it is with this understanding and awareness in this context that we begin to understand those people who were propelled, not just Kwame, and Kwame being, a leading figure from an era of movement and struggle, but the people whose names that Kwame may know and I don't know, and who other people know and other people might not know. It is that sense of struggle that Kwame has committed himself to, not that as we come forward and give applause or that we say things kind about him. Because with myself and Kwame, there are certain things that we can say in the shortest of forms that has a deep meaning. Because again, we have similar experiences in struggle. But we do extend an invitation to Kwame and to all creation that there is a level of commitment and consciousness that you have to make in struggle to be able to be successful, to take it from one level to another. How do we bring about good people? Again, when we look at ourselves in the context of the 60s, we see one of the major shortcomings was that we were emulating the people that we were fighting against. Our morals and our ethics were the morals and ethics that were taught by the people who we fought against. How do you raise a people? How do you, again, bring about a consciousness and awareness amongst humanity that makes them strive for the best? And again, it begins with ourselves. If you can't beat yourself, you can't beat nobody else. Everybody can fight, but everybody can't win. There's a discipline, there's a price that is paid to win. So the Creator, in not leaving us alone to figure out worship, has instructed us concerning worship. He says to be a better person, one has to be able to commit himself to a practice. It says prayer 5 times a day, for prayer restrains and keeps you from bad behavior. Fasting during the month of Ramadan, for it teaches you self-restraint and discipline. Charity, because you will not have believed until you want for your brothers what you want for yourselves. And Hajj, because it is that sense of community and pilgrimage that makes us aware that all come from two. And Allah says in the Quran, all come from two. And He has created the races that men might get to know each other, not that they would hate each other. The best amongst you is he who is most righteous. The companions of the Prophet asked him, what is righteousness? He said, good behavior. He said, of the things that will make you successful, there are 2. Taqwa Allah wal husnul khuluq. That is consciousness of the Creator and your ability to do good, to have good behavior. It is this sense of struggle that we left the 60s with, and we continue with an awareness that struggle has not stopped. It didn't begin in the 50s and end in the 70s.
Thank you so much. Yes, we want to, first of all, correct the spelling. It's Imam Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin. So that footnote was wrong. And he talks in this portion about the liberation movement has got to rest on political principles that have substance and meaning to the lives of people, talking about the relevance of the struggle and being able to incorporate that so that we're successful.
And he talks also about the peaceful but powerful nature of Islam and how to be a Muslim, one who's following the will of God. This was a peaceful man, a peace-loving man. He just had courage. He just wasn't going to take nothing that a man should be taken from his oppressors. shouldn't be taken from his oppressors. So we wanted to see all aspects of Imam Jamil Al-Amin. Saw him as Rap Brown. You saw him evolve to Imam. And you see the consistency in his message of freedom and liberation and power and being unafraid to struggle. So we're just about running out of time. We want to thank once again the technical assistance we got from Brother Kalonji Changa. Oh man, you did an extremely great, well job, and we certainly appreciate it. Once again, share this. Share this with everyone that you can. These are priceless programs that we have on Black Power Media Reloaded. Make sure that you share it so that people can get the same valuable presentation that you got, and I'm sure you enjoyed. We do want to remember a sister from, as we go out, I have to mention this, that sister from the Tulsa Massacre, Viola Fletcher. Put my glasses on to get this right. Viola Ford Fletcher from, matter of fact, we had an honor meeting her. She came to Brooklyn, New York at Sister's Place with Sister Viola Plummer, who made her transition. But Sister Viola Ford Fletcher, she was 111 years old. She was 7 years old when the Tulsa massacre occurred. Most of you know that about Tulsa. It was a thriving Black community, and whites were envious, and they made up some bogus charge and massacred Black people, massacred, and tore everything up. And yet they rebuilt it regardless, but she never got her reparations. They agreed to do $100 million worth of program stuff that you're supposed to get anyway out of the budget because of the neglect. They never gave the Tulsa victims their personal reparations. She was 111. I think there's one still surviving at 111, and someone else was 102. So we just wanted to say to Sister Viola Ford Fletcher, rest in peace, my sister, for a job well done. And you will get your reward in heaven now that you couldn't get on earth. And we're going to still fight to get ours on earth.
Continue to fight. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of our program, honoring and remembering the Imam Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, the work that he did, and also talking about honoring the genocide, remembering the genocide that had been imposed on the indigenous people here. Thank you so much for having been a part.
And as we say every week, the truth shall set you free, and power is the great equalizer. Black power.
Black power.
Sometimes the riot is a quiet one, where the battle is to love yourself and function in society, where voices of reason are muted by anxiety, like gaining notoriety is selling your soul. So we tend to go no deeper than the shallow water level, trying to keep us overhead in the face of all the slurs and the stares, mentally frozen, paralyzed by fear of failure and success. So we lock, stock, barrel, running while it's crumbling. All these towers and that babbling, but the baby's in the bath and the stash under the bed on my head, spinning from the circles and the puppets and the strings that they pull. Then we move. Reactionary warfare never produces when it's on the field. Feeble and foolish. What tools and what weapons are we using? We need some new ones. Real revolution. It's real solutions. What we've taken on the ways of